All right, everybody, good morning on a Monday. To review your green piece of paper homework, let's talk about the two questions. These two equations started us off, and I would be taking this y value of 2x minus 3 and putting it into the y. Now I'm going to distribute. And combine like terms. And solve. Now I got 2.3, which is a little bit concerning because we don't often have decimals, but you were warned that that might be the case. So for now, let's go ahead and try it. I'm going to take my 2.3 and I'm going to put it back into one of these two equations in the x spot, either here or here. This one, frankly, looks quite a bit easier because there's less stuff going on. So I'm going to get y equals 2.3's minus 3, which is 4.6 minus 3, which is 1.6, which is my y value. So now I have my x and my y. I'm going to write 2.3 in my x, 1.6 in my y, and I may use my calculator to check that work. I can show that to you in class, but otherwise that is the first question. The second question looks like this one. Now this problem is full of fractions, which is a little bit scary, but we're going to go ahead and take it the same way we did in the previous one. We're going to find the variable that's by itself, circle its opposite side, and substitute it in. So I have two different options because they both have the variable equal to itself, the y here and the y here as well. Just like my notes back from last Tuesday, I'm going to circle the top one and put it in the bottom, just because that's convenient. And I'm going to do 1/2 of x minus 4. Now, lots of fractions. I'm not a huge fan of working with fractions, so I'm going to do a special trick I taught you guys a while back. Multiply the entire equation by the common denominator. In this case, it's 2, which means I double everything. Double 1/2 is x, double 4 is 8, double this is negative 3x, and double this is minus 23. And now you find yourself in a nice situation with no fractions at all. And I'm going to solve. Now I have a mixed number here that I know is negative. I can leave it as a mixed number. I can make it, an improper fraction. I can make it a mixed number. 4 goes into 15 3 times with 3 remainders, or I can make it into a decimal. Depending on your comfort level, you may choose one over the other. In algebra class, your teachers are commonly use improper fractions. If your decimals terminate like this one does, decimals are going to be just fine as well. And in this example, I'm going to go ahead and use the improper fraction as my answer. But again, any of those would work. And just like I did in the last question, that is going to go back up into my original in x, either here or here, whichever one's easier. And I'm going to choose the first one because I think it looks simpler. So y is 1/2 of negative 15/4 minus 4. Most of you are going to use a calculator here. You're going to get negative 15/8 minus 4. This is negative 1 7/8 minus 4, which is negative 5 7/8. Or as a decimal, negative 5.875. Hopefully you can see that on the video. I'll slide it a bit just to make sure. So we have our x value of negative 15/4. We have our y value of this or any of a variety of combinations. I'm going to go ahead and write my answer as negative 15/4, and I'm going to keep the fractions alive, negative 5 7/8. What I saw in your papers is a number of you had the decimal, and that's okay too.
Now for the challenge.
And the challenge is actually the new style of question that we want to work on today. So I'm going to pick some different color. I'm going to show you how to do the challenge question. So bear with me. This is the new instruction for the day. This is the only piece of new instruction for today and all that I want you to learn about this new topic. Now up to this point, what you've seen in both of our questions are examples of when you have an equation equal to a letter, or when you have an equation, in this case 2 of them, equal to a letter. You can simply circle and put the arrow and you're on your way. You can substitute right off the bat. But many questions don't have that given to you right off the bat. For example, our challenge. What you'll notice here is there is no variable that's by itself. We have a y, but it also has a minus 2x with it on the left side of the equal sign. Here we have an x, but we also have a 3 and a minus 2y, again, on the left side of the equal sign. So nothing that's by itself. But the thing that's closest to by itself should be the y value. It has a coefficient of 1, which we don't write, and if we did, it still wouldn't scare us off. So this variable right here is the one we want to isolate. So what I'm going to do is this. If I have the space, I'm going to imagine getting rid of the minus 2x. I'm going to rewrite this thing just so you can see it. I'm going to rewrite this by solving for y. This is going to be the key component to today's lesson. You find the variable that's by itself. It could be in any of these 4 spaces or anywhere in the problem. You find the variable that's close to by itself but not quite, and then you make it by itself. So get rid of minus 2x with plus 2x. Once again, I get y is 3 plus 2x. Now, if you wrote 2x plus 3, that's the same thing. And now you have yourself a situation where you have a variable that's by itself, meaning it's all by itself on the one side of the equal sign, and you have stuff on the other side I could circle, and I can then draw an arrow. Now the kicker is, make sure you draw the arrow to the other equation. If we've been working with the first equation, and you work through that first equation, and you substitute back into your first equation, you're not going to get anything that you're going to be excited about. You're not going to really get an answer. You're going to find it's a special case, and you're going to get the wrong answer, and you're going to be a little confused as to why. So it has to go into the other equation. That's the only kicker here. So I'm going to do this next piece. And I'm going to solve. Notice the negative 2. And combine like terms. I'm putting the 1 there just so you see it. Checking to make sure you can see the recording. You can. So negative 1, and you get x is at the bottom of the screen here, x is negative 11. Now we have one of our 2 answers. I'm going to plug this negative 11 into either the x spot here or the x spot here, whichever one you think is more convenient. I don't really have a strong belief in this one. I'm going to go with the first one because it looks a little less confusing. So y minus 2x's is 3. This might work out nice. Negative 2 times negative 11 is positive 22. And do a little minus 22 to both sides, and you get your second answer of negative 19. And then you write it. Negative 11 comes first because it's the x value, and negative 19 comes second because it's the y value. What you should take away from this challenge and how it applies to today's lesson is you will be presented with questions that look like this or something like it, and you should identify that you have a variable somewhere in there that's by itself. You need to isolate that variable so it really becomes by itself. Whether it's an x or y, it doesn't matter. And then you substitute it back in, you solve, you substitute that value back in, you solve again, and you're done. Good luck today on your challenge questions starting on Monday and into Tuesday.